Punch it, Chewy.
And it's Sunday, and I'm tempted to ask what's on your workbench today, because we got a lot of the cast of the Ham Radio Workbench with us, and Tobias is also here, but he's rebooting his computer, so he'll join us shortly, hopefully. Welcome, everyone. Just before we get started, Bob, do you have everything ready for the drawing of What's That Mode?
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay. Because we got to present the right answer somewhere in the first half due to your overcomplicated drawing algorithm, don't we?
Damn it! I'll start looking into it.
Do that, and we'll have a look. So welcome everyone, and if you haven't heard about the Ham Radio Workbench, I'd recommend you to go straight over to hamradioworkbench.com and take a look there. We usually start this with a short segment about our ham radio weeks here. I don't know if any of you guests want to go first, or you just want to see how we do it usually.
Well, why don't you guys go ahead and start, and then we'll do the second half.
So, Walt, how's your week been? I've seen you've done a couple of videos this week.
Yeah, I've had fun. Had a good week. Yesterday, I just put the video up a few hours ago. I kind of simulated what I would do if a hurricane hit here, and I call it urban guerrilla portable. So I went up on top of a parking garage with, being in a city, it's hard to put up the old, trusty end-fed half wave. So what I did was went up on top of a parking garage and ran the wire down the side and kind of positioned it and angled it to the west of me so I could make most of my contacts somewhat into, to the west here in the States, and then kind of envis around me, and showed actually it worked out well. I mean, I was on 40 meters. I was talking just up the Chesapeake Bay to Baltimore, and made some good contacts that way, but it was fun. I had a good time with that. And earlier in the week, I worked a lot of hours, didn't play a whole lot of radio, but that was pretty much it. And I had a good time yesterday. And like I said, just got that video up today. So that's it.
Yeah, and you had a little bit of a message regarding memberships on your channel as well, Walt.
Oh yeah, I made a decision. I thought I would get crucified for this, but I kind of made a few jokes on people, and nobody in here, because you guys are all kind of like me. You're putting up videos to operate and experiment and not sell products. I made a decision. I've got a few people that I keep getting a lot of emails. As a channel, I'm coming up on 13,000 subscribers, and as I'm watching as my channel is growing, the amount of offers from different people to, here it used to be you get a free product. Now it's a free product with a compensation and some money. I just made the decision that I'm not going to take anyone's money. I did. Chameleon sent me some antennas, and I've done a couple videos on that. When I'm done with that, I'm not taking any more. And because of that, with the channel, I just started membership, and I just said, look, don't give me your money, but if you want, it's a tip jar. I just put it at $3.99 US and started a membership. I mean, I'm nearing retirement. I've got a great career. I don't need the money to pay the bills or anything. I'm not in this to make money. I'm in this to have fun, kind of document what I do as I grow and learn as a ham radio operator, and just to put together. I like my videos to be something of not time stamped, you know what I mean? Just different, experimenting with different things. And, 4 years from now, somebody may want to look and see, hey, I think I heard about this Ribicoff antenna or whatever. Bam, my video will still be relevant. I kind of do that. Mm-hmm. I know I used the Ribicoff, but that seems to be one of the popular ones I did. But you know what I'm saying? So made that decision this past week. I'm just, I've been a little frustrated, especially I sent an email to Radioddity, a few of them. And I actually went through comments of all my videos. I collected over 100 comments and put them all together of people saying, I bought a Zygo G90 because of you, and I sent it to them and said, I've tried everything to be a partner with you guys, and you won't even answer my emails. And They didn't answer the email. That was a few weeks ago. That really drove me. That really did. That drove me like, okay, you know what? You want to give it to guys that are just going to sit it on the bench, hold it up in the air and talk about it. You're not going to give it to a guy. You know, like I was talking to Thomas. I bought this CW rig because I watched Thomas go out for an hour and operate with it. You know what I mean? It's like, that's what I try to do in the SSB world with my radios and do that. And so I got a little frustrated with that. And I just decided, you know what? Heck with them. I'm going to, I don't need your free stuff. And anyway, enough of my rant. I'm going to take up too much time. Let's move.
But excellent. Well, excellent. And we who know you have been waiting for that rant for quite a while, though. but it's an excellent stand. And I might
video me going holding up, you know, with a over top of me.
I might be, as we say in Norway, throwing rocks in glass houses because I've had a couple of sponsored products on my channel, but I don't think anyone I don't think most ham radio YouTubers do this because we want to get rich. Right. If so, I'd pick another niche on YouTube. And it's a great stand. And it's a lot better to have the viewers involved and help run the channel than sponsors that want you to say good things about bad products.
Right.
At least in my opinion. And if I look over on my shelf and see the products I've gotten that I haven't done videos on, I'd much rather prefer to buy those products myself and to tell people that they're actually junk. So it's a good stand. Tobias, how's the Christmas lights going?
Improving. And sorry for being late. I should not update my Bluetooth drivers 1 minute before stream and then realizing that the keyboard's not working. But yeah, the Christmas lights are improving. I hope I can send it off to production and I get the PCB before the Christmas break. So maybe I can do a live stream between Christmas and New Year where I assemble this thing.
And in typical German fashion, it's over engineered a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just a bit, you know, I mean, if you do it, it should look proper, right? So, I mean, and yeah, that's a bit of my problem.
So, but it looks great. And I even think the one you did 30 years ago that you showed off looks great as well.
Yeah, but you haven't seen it in bright daylight yet. I'll do that when I have the proper PCB. Then we can do an A/B comparison.
and I see that Tim he's looking for sponsors for any 9-element 40-meter Yagis.
Yeah,
I'd watch that video. I'd watch
just
that video.
the small toys.
But only for portable use.
Yeah. Anything else, Tobias?
Not much in terms of ham radio. I managed to clean my aquarium finally. It was, rotting away since I had my accident in June, and now I finally cleaned it up. So this is how it looks at the very moment, and it'll just go downhill from there.
And you modded your 705, didn't you, though?
Oh, right. Yeah. That was this picture here. Mars mod. There's a nice video from Mr. TEHRS Bench, which diodes to take off. That worked fine. And also putting in the USB-C connector worked fine. Where I failed dismally was the screen protector. It somehow got halfway stuck under the display, and I couldn't get it off or aligned properly, so I basically had to disassemble the whole display unit, and I almost broke the LCD connector. But yeah, it's good, it's alive, everything's working, but yeah, be careful when you disassemble your IC705. The display connector, I don't know on which side there's a lever to release the ribbon cable. Yeah, it's different to all the other ones in the IC705.
Yeah, but at least you managed to get it done without breaking that radio, though.
Yeah, that would have been a major bummer.
So let's give the word to some of our guests, though. Vince, how has your ham radio week been?
My ham radio week has been full of excitement and unexpected things. And so we finally, here in southern Alberta, we finally got our first snow of the winter season. So that's to say that we had snow in September, which is not abnormal. It doesn't stay for very long, but we haven't had anything until then. And I was coming back from from the veterinarian for the annual physical for our Shiba Inu Wrangler, and the Shack Dog. He makes an appearance every once in a while, and I decided, well, gee, there's a park not far from here, and so I took a 10-kilometer detour out to West Bragg Creek. So there was an inch of snow on the ground when I started this 10-kilometer detour, and there was 6 inches, 15 centimeters on the ground when I got to the parking lot. And oh my goodness, he was having the time of his life running around in the snow. I got a great activation in, and it split over the UTC day because it was UTC midnight. I was there 20 minutes in advance and 20 minutes after it. So that's where my radio week started. And then now I am planning a humongous trip to Southern Oregon. Georgia and I are going to connect and maybe play with a tape repeater while I'm passing through. And I'm going to do 1 POTA stop a day. So for those of you who have ham alert set for V6LK, just take that and duplicate it for Alpha India 7 Lima Kilo. And you'll catch me while I'm on the road down in the States over the next 2 weeks. I'm pretty excited.
So how far of a drive is it from Alberta to Oregon?
It's going to take me, oh, that's a great question. So why don't I look it up? It says it is 1,617 kilometers in my route planner. So I'm going to do that over 2 nights and 3 days.
Yeah, that's not too bad, though.
No, it's not too bad at all. And it'll be all through the Rocky Mountains. So it's going to be stunning scenery.
Awesome.
Yeah, you bet.
So, and that's your entire week?
That's going to be my next 2 weeks. I'm going to hang out in Southern Oregon with my brother, AG7GM, and help him get established in his new home. And then I'll take 3 days and 2 nights to drive back and hang out with Tim N7KOM on the way back and do a POTA stop on the way there. Maybe shoot a little footage for a video. Who knows? I just kind of take it as it comes. Sort of like
nice.
Walt. I'm just here for the fun.
Awesome. And Bob, I see you're sharing a picture, so perhaps you want to go next.
Yeah, I'm ready. As you can, that is for my radio week. Has been I'm not going to spoil it up front. I'm just going to tell you that I wanted to go for another summit yesterday, so I drove for 2 hours on really horrid conditions on the road. There was snow, there was slippery. It was just where it's not a nice drive. I get to this place and I walk uphill for 2 hours in increasing depths of snow. I get to the summit. I rig up my radio, the FX4CR, and it's dead on transmit. Absolutely nothing coming out of the antenna. So I have to pack it all back down and walk back down. That took me another hour and then 2 more hours driving back home. So that was, I'm a little bit pissed from that trip. I'm still tired from all that walking in the snow. And but I will not let that mountain beat me. I'll be back hopefully already sometimes this week with the 891. I think that might be a bit more reliable in the snow. That's the entirety of my ham radio week, actually. So
and while you're on here, Bob, should we just show off who had the correct answers for last week's Guess That Mode?
I think we should. I put that in the Discord.
I saw it. I'm just going to find the right window here to share. And we have 2 correct answers, which is kind of disappointing considering how easy it was.
That is true.
But we'll do the drawing towards the end of, let's call it the first hour, because I have a feeling we're going to go a little bit overtime today. So we'll do the drawing for that fantastic hamshow.eu hat. See. And since we're crisscrossing across the screen here, though, Thomas, how has your ham radio week been?
Oh, actually, so it's been pretty good. It started out, let's see, Sunday was the Ham Radio Workbenches on the Air event. While you guys were recording your last live stream, actually, we were outdoors and had a great time with that. I did part of it with my Elecraft KH1 in a parking lot waiting on my daughter in a meeting she was in. And then the rest of it with the IC705. I had so much fun with the 705 that day. I thought, I'm going to take it out again because I don't take that radio out nearly enough. And I did another activation with the 705. I think it was Tuesday. And then actually I also made some coffee and did some stuff. I made a little video of that. I have to actually go back and look through my photos to see what I've done during the week. Friday, I had not planned on doing an activation of any sort that day. But it was kind of great because that morning I dropped my daughters off at they have this robotics and Shakespeare class. Not at the same time. They're not the same class, but it's an interesting combination for a Friday. But I dropped them off and I had a couple hours to kill. And I thought, I'm going to go to the local library over here, use their internet, finish up a field report, and be on my way. I was going to visit with a friend, another ham radio friend that day. And the library was closed. It's a small library and someone was running late. So they said, we won't be open until 10 a.m. So I had 40 minutes to kill. And I thought, well, I've got the KH1 with me, the little Elecraft KH1. So I took it out to the baseball field there near the library and started to hunt people. Everybody was on 20 meters. And, the built-in whip, if you put the whip on it and extend it and use it pedestrian mobile, that whip's supposed to work 20, 17, and 15 meters. And I couldn't hear anybody on 20 meters. It just so happens that all of the activators were outside my 20-meter footprint. They were too close or I just couldn't hear them. I could hear a lot of chasers. And so then I had a friend pop up on 30 meters, my friend John AE5X. And I thought, I wonder if I could get this thing to tune up on 30 meters. It's not supposed to. And I went down to 30 meters. I didn't change my counterpoise or anything. I hit the ATU button and I got a 2-to-1 match. And I was like, that's good for me. It may not be efficient, but as our friend Kirk says, RF got to go somewhere. So I called my buddy John and he answered, and I was doing a little happy dance while I was holding the radio, worked him. And then I moved down 1 kilohertz and I heard somebody else calling CQ POTA that just started. Turned out it was my really dear friend, Eric, WD8RIF, who just happened to start calling CQ right then, CQ POTA from a park. And so I worked him. So I made 2 30-meter contacts, pedestrian mobile with it. And that was the first for me. So that was pretty much my week.
Yeah. How do you like the KH1?
Oh my goodness. Should we do that in hour 3 of the show? I love the KH1. It's people are asking me when they've seen me use it, not pedestrian mobile, just like on a tabletop or something, they'll say, you should use it pedestrian mobile. You're going to use it pedestrian mobile all the time, aren't you? And no, probably 20% of the time I'll use it pedestrian mobile. It's actually a great radio to use on a tabletop as well. But it's what I love it for is just all of those times you want to hop on the air, portable. You're in a parking lot or you're at a hotel or something, and you just want to operate. You can just pull that thing out and start operating. And I bet that to me is the most valuable thing about it. Also doing a really quick summit activation if you need to. You can carry that with you, and you could carry it in a waist pack or something. It's so tiny. You could carry it in your pocket and then go to a summit and probably make your 4 contacts if you needed to make it quick because it's too cold.
So all that's left for us is then learn CW so we can actually use that radio. And we actually made a little bit of fun of that radio a couple of weeks ago, where the title of the show was, if you had the money for the KH1, what would you actually buy?
Yeah.
But it seems like a really, really nice radio, though.
It's a fun radio.
I have a question. Yeah. Thomas always names his radios. Thomas, what have you named this girl in your life, this new girl?
Okay, so I think I've decided to name this girl Birdie, and Birdie. As a bird in the hand. And this is a suggestion, a very forceful suggestion from my friend Alan, W2AEW, who probably a lot of you guys know. He said, you really need to name her Birdie. He started really early, and I thought, I do like that name, actually. And so that's what we're going to do. I had to have a tie-in also to a 1940s actress, which I've done that as well. So Yeah, we're good there.
All right.
Birdie.
Like,
Let's see, Kjetil, your ham radio week. Have you done anything exciting?
No, not at all. Basically, I actually haven't turned on a radio this entire week, which is uncommon for my end at least. Had a really busy week at work. We had a soldering course on Tuesday, which I was an instructor, and same on Thursday, but then I was just organizing, like ordering food and stuff like that. And I've been out, like, I filmed a little video about the winter gear, like winter clothing, and how to dress up for winter properly. Other than that, no, not very much. Preparing
that was a great informative video, though, and how to use layers to both stay warm and cold at the same time.
Yeah, thanks. And yeah, I heard a lot of people, like, they don't know how to dress for winter, so they go cold. They put on like 5 sweaters and they freeze and wonder why. Like it's stuff like that. So I think it could be helpful for somebody. Next one is going to be more interesting. I started filming for that already a few weeks back, like more emergency shelters, emergency wind shelters, thermal blankets, stuff like that, which you need when you go hiking here, even for the shorter hikes. And I started preparations for presentations I have on Wednesday in our local MCOMS group. So we're going to look into using JS8 call as a communications method, like just to try around with it. And since I'm apparently the only one that's used it, then I'm the expert. So I have to learn a lot before that presentation on Wednesday.
Still, I mean, I like that video, and I actually got a grade. I got my video graded for 6th grade gym class, actually.
Yeah.
Or she's not in 6th grade anymore. She's in 10th grade. My daughter had gym homework and making a video about how to dress for cold weather. And guess who got asked to help produce that video? And she actually got an A, or I got an A on that video, actually.
Ah, that's good.
Well done, Morten.
Yeah.
Hope her teachers aren't watching the European Ham Radio Show, but I don't think there's a big chance of that.
Unlikely.
George, how has your week been?
My week's been very busy, very busy. Radio wise, well, there's a lot of things going on, but as Vince mentioned, a repeater project, we're putting up a new repeater. So I was testing out the repeater. I built a repeater controller for the repeater. So this will be the first time I'm fielding that particular controller. So that'll be its first in the wild running of the controller. So I'm excited about that. There's a whole mess of firmware and stuff that I've been writing on that. So that's a project that it just constantly grows in functionality. So it's like a never ending project. So like any software thing, it just keeps going. So that's kind of been the big Workbench project. The operating project has been to start to reduce the number of radios. I know this is kind of a weird concept for most of you, certainly for Thomas, but I've sort of accumulated too many radios, and what I want to do is thin the herd. I know it's sort of anyway. So I'm zeroing in on which radios I really want to be operating with more in the field. The station is done. That's figured out. But I got rid of some of my portable radios. In fact, I just sold a FX4 CR, by the way, Bob. So I was interested to hear your comment about it freezing up, but I just sold mine. And the one that I've sort of zeroed in on as I think my favorite field radio is the 705. And I managed to recently buy a Elecraft KXPA 100 amp and tuner to pair with it. And it works very well, actually, as a combo, surprisingly well. So that's been kind of the operating stuff, is getting my my sort of POTA gear tuned up a bit.
Yeah,
George,
that's important.
I think we all have that issue where you're looking around at all the radios you've accumulated and you're like, I really need to get rid of some of these things. But then I tell my wife, it's like, that American television show Hoarders. It's like, I'm like an episode of Hoarders.
Yeah. Do you have 6 feet of newspaper be in front of your radio? I mean, can you get to the radios? That's the first question. If you don't have the newspapers, you're really not a hoarder. You're just a ham. So
How many cats do you have?
Can you still see the carpet? That's the question. Yeah.
Newspapers, it's QST magazine.
There's cargo. The real problem with having too many radios, again, that's sort of a weird phrase, is that you become like not very good at any of them. And so many of the radios now have so many features in them that if you don't use it for a while, when you go back to use it, like the other day, I even my 705 that I've been using a lot lately, I plugged in the microphone and there's no audio coming out of the microphone. Like, and of course, in the configuration settings, you direct where you want the audio to go. So there's a configuration thing that in USB mode lets you go to the mic as opposed to auxiliary connection. So of course you don't think about that unless you use it all the time. So one of the reasons to like minimize the number and variety of radios is to be better at operating the ones that I really want to use.
That's a great
and
point.
everyone's a trade-off.
Yeah.
I think it's the first valid reason for fewer radios I've ever heard. So,
however, Bob, it doesn't mean you have fewer count. So if you zero in on one radio, you could buy 2 or 3 of the same one. That's backups. So you don't necessarily reduce the head count. You're just reducing the variety.
George, that's such a great point because everyone has been on me for like years to get a Yaesu, and I bought the Yaesu FT891 a few months ago. And the learning curve and the menu system and everything. Here's, I've been, no secret. I'm Captain Zygu G90 over here. You know what I mean? And I know the inside and out. I know that radio because I use it all the time. And I go out with that FT891 and I'm like, oh my God, let me get my iPad out and Google.
Yeah. Are you saying that Yaesu menus aren't user friendly?
I'm saying that Yaesu is a great radio, and I impulse bought it, and I wish I hadn't. I wish I'd have taken and bought 2 more G90s, like George was saying, and have more.
So, yeah, and you will. I could tell. But seriously, this like when I'm looking at all these, I have more radios than I choose to list here, actually. And the one thing I like about that is I love the variety because that 891 is a great radio for some things. The 705, the KX3, you go down the list. Most of the radios are great at something, they're okay at something, and they're missing other things. So there's no radio that's like, oh, that's the perfect radio. Forget the price. There's no radio that's the perfect radio because this one has a better spectral display. This one doesn't have one. This one is a tuner. This one doesn't have one. This is great at CW. This one's not very good at CW. You tick down the big list. So there's nothing that is the perfect radio. So you kind of go, okay, well, which one do I want to, or couple do I want to stick with? And then the other ones, once I sort of get in my mind, I really like when I sit down in front of the 705, I love that radio. It is, to me, such an intuitive, easy to use, beautiful display. I love all the metering, even the audio envelope display. I mean, it's a delight. Like I bought a Lab 599. That is a fabulous radio for taking outside. We jokingly call that the Pacific Northwest radio because you can rain on it and it sort of doesn't care. So it's a great radio, but it's not the most beautiful display. It's kind of okay spectrum display. It's got all the wires hanging out the sides. It's it's a little gang. So there's a bunch of things that are like, and there's also no tuner, but there's not the 705. So it's like, none of these things are perfect, but they're sort of optimized for one thing or another. So I think the trick is just to figure out, like, what do you really want?
That is a good point. And I see Stuart actually. I see we have a Yaesu 891 fan here. I know Stuart operates with a 891, and he asked what are menu settings people need to tinker with on the 891, and there's always something, Stuart. There's always.
I can answer that because I've used that radio probably more than most. I've done pretty much all my summits and a huge number of parks, including a kilo on that radio. I still don't know the menu system on that radio. Don't feel bad, Walt. You're not supposed to understand that.
I think the wrap on that radio, especially a lot of the Yaesu radios, is exactly this. Is the people carp about the menu system. Here's the flip side to that. Okay, tell you what, let's not do that. Let's put a bunch of buttons on the front panel so that you don't have to have a fancy menu system. Mm-hmm. Then the front panel will be 4 times the size. And so now you're going to carp about the fact the radio is 4 times the size. Yep. So,
and it's going to leak water.
It's always a trade-off.
It's going to be nearly as nice.
Everything's a trade-off. And speaking about too many radios, that's a great segue to my ham radio week, actually. Because
before you start, can I just answer Stu's question?
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
The thing is, the thing that you need to go 7 layers deep into the menu system to do is things like a notch, or the width, or a shift. that is just bloody annoying, because usually you need to get to those fairly fast, and when you need to navigate 7 layers of menus to get there, it's usually too late. The moment has passed. So that is the answer to that. I still love that radio. I think it's a fantastic radio. I wouldn't be without it. But yeah, the menu system.
So let me add one more thought, then I'll pass it back to you, Martin. So one of the beauties of the 891, aside from the fact it's a pretty reasonable price, is that it's very compact for a 100-watt radio. So if you were to say, well, I'll get a 5 or 10-watt radio, and if I really want to not operate QRP, I want to operate more power, now I have to bring an amplifier. Now I need to bring cables, and it's always something, right? So if you're going to trade off that menu system for being compact, so it's a great radio for the right set of goals.
Yeah. One follow up to that too, Morton, and then I'll get out of the way here.
Thomas, you're next.
I learned this the hard way, and I should have known this because I know the theory behind it. But I learned this the hard way by buying an 891 and using 100 watts, especially in the environment I use it at, by the sea and salt water with verticals and everything. 20 watts compared to 100 watts in my environment, nothing. It really is. I mean, like they say, it's 1S unit. It's a little over 6 dB. It's really, I personally don't need a 100-watt radio for the locations I operate in by saltwater, and I knew that. I should have known that. And like I said, I'll probably keep the thing. A year from now, I'll probably do a video on how it's the greatest radio ever built. Right now, I just kind of like, why'd I do that?
Okay, sorry. Now I have to make one last comment. Martin, you'll get there. I'm just saying, since I took my IC705 apart, I had a look at the service manual, and I must say ICOM has done a fantastic job on the service manual. So if you have a chance, look at it. They really, I think a few people have spent several hours in crafting that. It is just looking at a service manual is a joy.
Yeah, and I've got to say, in the spirit of Bob, George, Walt, and Tobias, I'd like to interrupt Morton for just a moment to say that the truth is, I've got an 891. I love it. I think when I use it, I'm like, wow, this is a great radio. I've gotten used to the what would I call like the more accessible of the menus, the things you need to grab when you're in the field. And I find that there are pretty good workarounds for it. There's some good channels out there for learning how to do that. But it always comes back to me with, I just never use over like 5 watts. I just don't really need to. So the battery I have to take with this and everything else, it just adds to the weight. So I tend not to use it for that. I use it in the shack more often, which is the reason why it's here. But, field day and things like that, that's a great radio to take. And George, to your point about you want to get to know one radio really well. I have to say that the reason I rotate my radios so much is for that very reason. And every time I take them to the field, because I think I need to sell, I've just got too many radios, I need to sell one. I take one to the field and I'm like, I'm never letting go of this radio. I love this radio. And it's like one of the best ones I've got. And then I'll take another one out the next day and I'm like, this is like one of the best radios I've got. I just have this appreciation for those things that each radio can do individually. You were talking about the TX500. I did an activation about 2 weeks ago in just right smack in the middle of the rain. And so when I was out there in the rain, I was out activating. I didn't worry about my radio at all. It was covered in water. It was perfectly fine. And so Nick is saying I need to operate, more power for her Robota. So that's a really good point. The thing is, they had it set up so that I was worth more points because I was QRP. So I operated 5 watts CW and 10 watts SSB when I was running her Robota. But because they wanted the points to be more weighty for people that were QRP, that's the reason I did that. But yeah.
So in the spirit of Thomas, George, Walt, and Tobias, Morton, how has your ham radio week been, sir?
Excellent. Yeah. Because I'm going to do my usual show and tell here because I got this fancy overhead cam here. Speaking about too many radios, there's been a couple of additions to my radio gear. First of all, this little Chinese USDX, and I watched both your video, Thomas, and Walt's video on that, and kind of decided that it's probably somewhere in between. So I bought this one used. The seller confirmed that it was working properly. Took it out for one POTA activation, did 12 QSOs in 10 minutes. So it's got a passing grade from me. Not the best audio quality, by far not the greatest user interface, but since I sold my X6100, I wanted to have a QRP alternative. Besides that, I got this little thing here, the Liligo TWR, which is radio based on a ESP32 chip and an 868 radio chip, I think. Flashed it with some APRS firmware, tested it as a tracker right at the moment. Works fine. Can also work as a digipeater and an iGate, and that's probably what I'm going to use it for, though, because we need a digipeater in our club. We're kind of in an APRS dead zone. So going to put a good antenna just straight on top of it, put it in a waterproof box, and place it somewhere outside. Besides that, you talked about Leatherman and multi-tools on your last podcast and talked about the bit holders in the case. And you kind of, everyone didn't know that there was room for the bits in the case. There is.
I haven't seen that before. That's nice.
At least on mine. This is, let's see, this is a Leatherman Charge.
Oh, Morton?
Yep.
I want to ask you, why do you have a green Sharpie in your kit?
Oh, that is a good question. I'm just going to change the layout here. That is because I work as, I'm going to change the camera view as well. I work as a sound engineer, and no one ever steals a green Sharpie. So if I
that's very true. They steal red ones, black ones, metallic ones, but they leave the alone inexplicably.
If I switch back here now, it's not green.
That's great. That's fantastic.
It's theft proof.
I love it.
Dang, I wish I'd known that trick when I was running a board.
Because guest engineers tend to steal gaffer's tape and Sharpies, and at least they have one less thing to steal at the moment.
So that's like an international conspiracy to like have all the green pens.
Yeah. The trouble is, though, I found a black Sharpie on my workbench the other day. Turned out that it wasn't black.
It was green.
Yeah.
Do they sell like special ones that are black but come with green hats?
I don't think they do.
That's twice the price. That's the problem. Yeah. They're special stealth anti-theft.
But there are no markers that are as good as a Sharpie for what I do, and it doesn't play well with my green screen either. I can see that. So, but Sharpies are kind of the industry standard for marking things, and that's because they never fail. It's the same reason I have the old Maglite here with the non-LED bulb, incandescent bulb, because they never fail, and they give them just the amount of right light to see stuff on a dark stage without the audience seeing that I'm up there. But that was not ham radio related at all.
Oh, but it can be.
Oh, yeah.
See, in my everyday carry in my kit is Scotch blue painter's tape number 2090, accept no substitutes. There are 4 colors of Sharpies, and there is one metallic Sharpie, and it's silver or gold. And I carry a metallic Sharpie around for the very same reason. It writes on every surface, but the metallic one writes on coax.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I write the last 2 letters of my call sign and the length of the cable, LK50. It's a 50-foot cable, and I can visually identify what kind of cable it is. Sharpie markers and paint and Scotch 3M painter's tape are everyday carry for me, except no substitutes. Absolutely, Martin.
Yeah,
industry standard.
Speaking about tape, I use fluorescent TEHRS tape here, 25 millimeter gaffer's tape, fluorescent. You can see it in any condition, and I use that when I'm out doing portable, just to mark my antenna, at least if it's dark, so no one comes running into it.
Brilliant.
I use Dollar Tree electrical tape. For you guys in Europe that don't know what Dollar Tree is, it's like a store where everything in it used to be $1. Now it's like $1.25. But yeah, it's basically house of Chinese products in the United States is what it is.
Once you go Scotch 700, you'll never go black. You'll never go back.
Speaking about like American things, I picked up this. This is my first ever bottle of Dr. Pepper that I've ever tasted. So I brought it for this stream just like in honor of all of our American guests.
10, 2, or 4. What time is it over there? You know, that's an old Dr. Pepper commercial. You have one at 10, 2, and 4.
Yeah, it's almost 10.
There you
I have to admit, I've never had Dr. Pepper. Isn't that fairly high caffeine drink?
Yeah,
Not the same as Pepsi.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
So maybe not a good point if I would like to sleep tonight.
No, that was going to be my point as well. So
Yeah.
careful with that. Yeah.
Tomorrow
We're
morning.
old men, after all.
Yeah.
But
Have you had a sip of that yet? I'm going to give away the secret. What makes it taste different than regular cola?
Yeah.
Prune juice. You'll taste it now. Now I just ruined it for you.
I don't know what the prune juice
But the older you
tastes
get, the more useful it becomes. So hey.
Ah.
All
but
right, we joke about rag chewing on 80 meters and health advice between old
There
men.
we
I
go.
think we've gotten there for the European Ham Radio Show as well now. So,
Yeah.
good stuff.
Perhaps one of you guys should tell our viewers about at least. We're bound to have a couple of viewers that haven't heard your podcast. I don't know who want to present the podcast for a little while. George, go ahead.
So you want sort of the overview of what the podcast is all about?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
quick version, which
there's
I
no
guess
such thing.
is about 3 hours long. So
Yeah.
Quick
Okay,
version.
quick version, 1 hour. So we started the podcast 2016. I think we've done 197 episodes. We produce an episode every 2 weeks. Every show is an hour long, but we've never achieved that. They're averaging 2 and of late 3 hours after the editing. So the whole point of the show early on, Jeremy, KF7, IJZ, and myself started the show. So we co-hosted it. The whole idea was to do a podcast about hands-on ham radio stuff, meaning what makers, builders type of folks like to do, which is everything from tools, test equipment, construction techniques, circuit design, software, and all that. We also are very avid outdoor portable operators, so kind of POTA, SOTA, field day kind of stuff. So that's most of the operating stuff we talk about tends to be mostly portable kinds of things, but all the other hands-on-y stuff is kind of universal. So it's really very much about encouraging people to learn about technical stuff and also get more hands-on. So when we started the show, Jeremy said, I can't imagine how we could possibly come up with enough stuff to talk about for 10 episodes. So I don't know how long we're going to be able to do this thing, but let's shoot for 10 and see what happens. Well, 197 episodes later, we're still going. So roundabout episode 100, Jeremy decided he was going to do other stuff. He's very active in making electronic music and other related audio kind of stuff. And so he wanted to spend more time on that. And for about a year or so before then, I was bringing on more folks to be on the show on a regular basis. So Vince started to participate on a regular basis. And then we had this guy Thomas on as a guest, and for some reason he seemed to want to hang around, and we thought, like, I didn't even think he'd come on the show, let alone want to hang around with us. And so we're fortunate to also have Thomas join us on a regular basis, as well as 3 others that aren't here with us today. So Rod, VA3ON, Mike, who is a VA3MW. Yeah, thank you. And Mark, N6MTS. And so amongst the 6 of us, we generally get half or most of us together to do an episode. Every show is a certain topic. We often have special guests, and I think that the overriding goal for the content that we try to produce is to bring people on the show that really know something about something. So if we have a show on loop antennas, we bring in a guy who's like, Dr. Jack, who's like a PhD expert and knows, the electromagnetics and could talk about loop antennas, even to normal people who just want to use one, right? So, or we'll bring someone on who knows a lot about propagation or on some circuit design topic. So we try to get people who are very knowledgeable about the thing that they do. And so that makes it a whole lot of fun. And it's fun to find out more about their background and how they got to where they got to. Along the way, we've also made various project kits that we made available as either PC boards or as complete kits. Probably the first one was a antenna analyzer. Then we did development boards for microcontroller projects. We did a little dummy load board. The most popular one we did is a Anderson power pole DC outlet strip with fuses. That was sold as a whole kit, actually through DigiKey. So one thing we learned was DigiKey has fantastic international distribution. So if you buy anything, even if you're out of the US and you buy something from DigiKey, the shipping is pretty reasonable. In fact, I think it might even be free if your order's big enough. So so that made it very practical to do that. So
and that is awesome that you did that through DigiKey, because for us Europeans, getting a lot of those North American products can be tough just due to the shipping.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, just a small box to Europe could be $20, $30 and take 3 or 4 weeks, and then there's VAT in a lot of countries, and so it's really ridiculous. So yeah, that was a real good idea. In fact, we'll be doing more with DigiKey in 2024. DigiKey has signed up, re-signed as a sponsor. And one of the reasons why we wanted to work with them is for that reason, to look at what other kind of projects kits we can make available. Flex Radio is a sponsor. They've been a sponsor for several years. Our philosophy, talking about sponsorship and all that sort of stuff, our philosophy is that we don't need sponsors. We could just do this ourselves, but they help pay the cost, so that's nice. But we only have sponsors that are companies that we are customers of, that we really like. Mm-hmm. And historically, we've had other really great sponsors that have kind of come and gone, but those guys have been with us now for a while. So that's pretty much the show. Every 2 weeks, we drop a new episode, and we're very grateful that we have as many listeners as we do. I think we're averaging around 10,000 downloads an episode at this point, so it's pretty good for an audio podcast.
That is really good.
Yeah, we'll have to work on that, Morten.
Yeah, but then again, we split this off from my channel just to have it as an own brand name, and we're growing, not as fast as I'd like us to, but we're growing faster than my channel did at this time.
Morten, he said that they bring experts on, so it doesn't look like any of us will ever be a guest on work.
Well, you know what? Everybody's good at something, as Mama used to say.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. They invited me on.
Yeah. Welcome.
Well,
I'm the bad example, right?
We said that after the solder course as well. Like, you can give that to your mother; she's obligated to enjoy it.
Yeah, but you run out of relatives pretty soon. So, but I think Vince's comment is exactly spot on. Everybody is an expert at something. Now, it may not be some esoteric electrical engineering thing. It could be something very practical. Like one thing that I learned as a ham very young. I didn't know anything about mechanical stuff. And so I got involved with the repeater group. This is when I'm like a teenager. And so these guys are like, we're going to go to the repeater site and we're going to go pour some concrete and put up a tower. Like, how do you do that? Or we're going to go run a bunch of electrical stuff, So you find that, people know a lot about something. They may be really good at the barbecue, which, by the way, is one of the more essential skills for a ham club,
especially on field day.
Yeah, I mean, everybody can bring something to the party.
Completely get that.
Absolutely.
In my real life world, I'm an engineer. I'm a structural engineer, but I work out in the field, so I'm kind of like the field engineer. So we have the theory guys that do all the calcs and theorize everything or whatever when we're designing something and building it. And then I'm the guy that when it's built, will it work? You know what I mean? And so, yeah, there has to be the theory guys, but there also has to be the field engineers, the guys out there that are like, twisting the wires together and putting up the poles or whatever and doing it. So, yeah, they're, in my opinion, maybe because I am one, they're experts too in their own way,
So there's another example I think that's sort of very appropriate for the ham radio community today, because we were just talking about this on the recent episode. If you rewind back in time in the US about 20, 25 years ago, when they were getting rid of the CW requirement, all of the older hams were like, that's the end of the world as we know it, right? This is the world would come to an end because there's going to be hams who don't know CW, right? Doom and gloom. Well, what happened was a whole bunch of newer, younger, i.e. under 60 hams got into the hobby. And guess what? A lot of those guys knew a lot about stuff that the old guys had know nothing about. So you get a lot of network engineers and software people and a whole new skill set, which in today's ham radio is absolutely essential. Yep. So everybody just about has some project where you need to get your router to work, or your whatever network thing, or your software thing, or your firmware thing, or whatever. And so that whole new bunch of hams that came in had that kind of skill set. And, that's awesome. I mean, really, as we all say, it's a hobby of 1,000 hobbies. So you need a lot of people with a lot of different domain expertise and practical experience, quite frankly, is just as important.
Yeah, and we see that where I live on the west coast of Norway, we have some rather extreme climates at times. Like it's stormy, it's windy, and we buy in equipment at the club station for which is supposed to be extreme weather gear, made by proper engineers who has never seen this kind of climate, and they just fall apart. And in there you have mechanical engineering, but you have electronics, you have chemical engineering, you have structural engineering, you have so many things. And on top of that, it has to be a good radio or a good antenna, and then you have to know how to use it. So there are so many layers to this hobby, and that's what I enjoy seeing on YouTube. Everybody's sharing, even if it's the same topic, you attack it from 10 different angles and you get 10 different videos. So that is quite fun.
I was watching a video with a guy who was welding an antenna, and I was thinking I could write firmware for a microcontroller, but I have no idea how to weld. Yeah. And so it was wow, that looks like fun. I'd love to try that.
That's cool. That's what I do for a living. I design welds. I'm a structural engineer. Non-destructive test, deep dive into what the weld's really doing with the two metals coming together and all that stuff. I never thought about that. Yeah, that can be applied to antenna building or whatever on a scale.
And it's such a fascinating hobby, though, because there are so many levels on it. When I got my license, I figured I'm going to talk on 2 meters, and that's going to be it. And I guess that's the part of the hobby I do the least amount of stuff on. I'm more of the guy that likes to tinker and build stuff, and once it's working, I'm kind of happy and move on to the next project.
Yeah, and communication as well, sharing information like we do here, and what Morten is doing with all his video projects over here in Norway, making this available to younger people or making it available to newer people, maybe people a book isn't a good way to learn ham radio. Maybe it's better for people to learn it from a video or an interactive app or whatever. And we have to do that for the hobby to survive. You can't just, for everybody, you can't just come with this book and say, learn how to be a ham radio operator, because you're excluding so many people that could be great operators.
Yeah.
I had a discussion the other day with somebody over the American testing. How we see the question pool, and all you have to do is memorize the answers. And I said, there are people in this world that all they want to be is a good operator, and there's nothing wrong with just being a good operator as a ham radio operator. Everything you buy it, it's put together for you. Plug it in and operate. There's something to be said of just being a good operator in the hobby. There's nothing wrong with that.
There is, and over here there's a new license class coming sometime next year, I hope, which is a beginner's license model after the UK license, where you're limited on power and on equipment that you can only use ready-made equipment, and there's going to be a limit of about 20 watts, I think. But it's focused on operating and not necessarily the electronics behind it. And it's kind of a stepping stone into the hobby for those who think the regular license is too hard.
Amateur radio license is just a license to learn. That's all.
That's same as a driver's license, in fact. But I need to say that listening to what was going on with the Beauvais expedition, I think it should be extremely obvious that what needs to be taught to new radio amateurs is how to behave on the air, not how to calculate resonant frequencies. That is really, it's not nearly as important. And that's coming from me, and I really enjoy calculating resonant frequencies. But if you don't know how to handle taking part of a pileup, it doesn't matter if you're really good at calculating resonant frequencies.
I think that's a course that everybody should take, how to not be an ass. So
even on the radio.
Exactly. My last couple of POTA activations has been terrible due to people not understanding how the pileup works. And I'm usually pretty good, at least according to myself, to police a pileup. But the one I had today was terrible. It was really tough. Everyone spoke on top of each other.
I can say that I think that one really cool thing about, I wish, when I was growing up and I got my license in 97 and I was a shortwave radio listener before that, I didn't have nearly the resources. Really, the only thing I ever got information from were QST and CQ magazines and things like that. And I think that a lot, I really appreciate in the world of YouTube, I actually don't watch a whole lot of ham radio YouTube channels, except for ones where people are kind of doing something, like they're building something, they're doing something. It's not a personality driven thing. And I like forums like you. I'm so glad you guys have a European folks ham radio live stream too, because it kind of gives me a flavor of what it's like still in the UK. I lived in the UK for a while, lived in Germany for a while, lived in France. And I was never super active during those times, but I hope to, go over there and do some more on vacation and stuff. But I find that everybody has the thing that they do. And for me, I have watched, actually before I was on the Ham Radio Workbench podcast, I would see like an episode right before I was about to mow the yard or something. And it would be on some kind of obscure topic. And I'd think, I don't know if I'm really going to like this one. I'll just kind of listen to it for a while. And by the end of it, I was like so totally into whatever it was that the guest was talking about, because it was infectious. Just enthusiasm for what you're doing. And you're like, oh, I could see ways I could apply this in what I do. And that sounds really fast. It's something for me to look up. And I think that that's a really important, aspect to that's where we can really leverage things like podcasts and YouTube. And I think it's just like this education and community that we need in the amateur radio world to gain those skills to know how to work Bouvet. That sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. I agree. That's good. Great comment.
And also, that's the reason why I like your podcast so much, is because, half of the time I have no idea what you're talking about, but I end up buying stuff nonetheless.
We've done our job.
Yeah, the advertisers are happy.
Let me blow our cover here. Half the time we don't know what we're talking about either.
That's a great point, though, and I do this. Like when I build an antenna, I know everyone's going to crucify me in the comments, so I spend a lot of time really researching the build of the antenna itself before I go out and do it, and do a video on it or whatever. And I think being a YouTuber has made me a much more knowledgeable as an operator, as a ham, than just watching YouTube. So there's something to be said about that too, because trust me, like we were saying earlier about the menu system, all you got to do if you want to learn about the Yaesu menu system is just do a video on it and say you're a newbie with an FT891, and your comments will be nothing but how to operate.
That's a good idea. I should in fact do that. But
I have purposely done things wrong on stream just to get comments. And that's a great experience. but Bob, should we do your overcomplicated algorithm of drawing the winner from last week's Guess That Mode?
Yes, let's.
Should we do the mode first? I still have the video up here.
Yeah, so, do the mode first.
We'll
do we get to play also if we didn't hear it before? Can we?
Yeah,
play?
you can play now, but right. You're not qualified as winners though.
Okay.
But I'll play the short video from Bob here.
Oh, that's easy.
Yeah, and funny that we only have 2 correct answers this week.
Yeah.
I think we need to up the prices a bit, because this cheap ass cap is probably it's not enough incentive to get people to write.
I am so happy that we're not monetized yet, Bob.
What did I say now?
And they are saying it in chat already.
Yes.
So, let's see. Should you share your screen with your overcomplicated algorithm? We have the 2 correct answers. It's Paul and Mike.
Should
and
I
Mike won a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, go ahead and explain. Sorry.
Let's see. I'm sharing now. You can, yeah. And I need to embiggen this probably.
Yep.
Yeah.
Basically, what we're doing is we listed the correct answers, indexed 0 based, so 0 and 1 for 2 correct answers. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at the number of spots reported to the Whisper network for the first half hour of our show. I'm going to divide that number by 2, and the remainder will be a number which is either 0 or 1, and that's going to be the index of the winner. So this is perfectly out of my hands. There's no way I can cheat. You can verify this on your own.
Oh, good golly. This is just in the spirit of Ham Radio Workbench to over-engineer a simple coin toss.
I was told that it had to be a fair draw. And this was a YouTube rule, and I do not want to upset the YouTube gods. So I came up with this. Now I'm pretty happy with it. Let's see. Sometimes it changes. I have to run it a couple of times, but we'll see what happens. It says 0. And it keeps saying 0, and that means it is in fact 0. So the winner is Paul.
Yeah, let's. Paul has won it, and you got his email, don't you, Bob?
Yeah, he mailed in the correct answer. So
yeah. So he'll get one of those beautiful hamshow.eu hats that none of us have seen because you order them straight from China to the winners.
Yes, I do. But it's basically this cap. It just doesn't say my call sign on it. It says hamradio.eu.
Comes with a free bottle of Dr. Pepper. We're good to go.
I'm not paying for the Dr. Pepper shipment. I'll stick with the caps.
Well, actually, for those of us who live just a stone throw from the Swedish border, we can actually just cross the border and buy our Dr. Pepper there.
Mm.
Oh.
Yeah, I have seen it before. I just never tasted it. So, yeah.
Have you tasted it now?
Nope. I'm waiting for tomorrow.
All right. Basically, prune juice and too much caffeine. What could possibly go wrong?
Just have a nice bran, some bran bread with that and some oatmeal, and then.
Yeah, I've just heard about it as like a drinks mixer before, so. Yeah,
but actually, Dr. Pepper used to be one of those things I usually bought first when I came to the U.S. Every time I landed in the U.S. But now I can just drive across the Swedish border, which is about a 15-minute drive from home. So it's lost a little bit of its magic.
Jag vill gärna dricka Dr. Pepper. I can say it right now in Swedish for you.
Coffee, Dr. Pepper, prune juice, and bran. At least you'll be awake while you're sitting down.
Yeah.
We'll expect a full report next Sunday, Kjetil.
Yeah, if I survive. So.
Yeah. All right, and I'm the problem with the monetization. Yes.
Your language is sometimes a little bit colorful, though.
What did I say? Can you give me the first letter? What did I say? That was not.
I don't think you can say piss. Can you?
Honestly,
I have. English is not my native language, but we have a lot of people whose English is their native language here.
Just say you were speaking Spanish. Piso.
All right. Yeah, I'll work on my language.
Yeah. At least you didn't say the F word this time, though.
This time.
It's really difficult not to say that now, Morten. Really difficult not to say that now.
What F word are we talking about? Are we talking about frequency?
No,
yes.
Oh, yeah. Good
yeah,
times.
we're a little bit off track as usual. So
or FC8 is that F word?
Yeah, to some hams it would be. Yeah. And Stu's got a clarification here that you will not hear that word on the BBC.
We're not on the BBC.
That's because the proper. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you wouldn't hear that on the Beeb.
And now you probably offended our entire British mass of viewers.
It's American. Everybody knows that.
But that was actually when I came to the U.S. as an exchange student when I was 17 years old. Understanding what you could and could not say was actually really hard.
I spoke to customer service at GoDaddy in a previous job, in a previous life in the universe a long time ago. And I was, by accident, I used the F word. Not at the representative, but I say, you effed up. And she completely lost it. I mean, that was the first time she heard that word in months. I don't get it. How can you be so sensitive? It's a word.
You were about English, and a slang word that we just mentioned is different in Canada and the U.S. Like, me being pissed means I'm mad. If you're in Canada and you're pissed, you're drunk, right, Vince? And that kind of
Well, it's a British thing, isn't it?
It's a British thing,
Yeah. But since somebody mentioned Bouvet earlier, there's another one that's a lot more interesting, I think, to bring it a bit back into topic. It's some people going to Peter the First's island.
Oh, really? Again?
Yeah, which is now more wanted than the Bouvet Island, because if you go to the DX list, then Bouvet is now down to 11th spot, I believe, and then Peter the First is 8th.
Yeah,
both of them are.
I was going to say, I had a really, one of the most interesting ham radio things ever happened to me. Had to do with Peter One. This has been, when did they go last time? Was it like 2004 or 5 or something like that? And turns out, like, I now know several people that were on that DXpedition, including my good friend Dave, K4SV. And but one day, it was like one morning, I think I'd rag chewed with some friends the night before on my radio. I had played around a little bit, and the next morning before I went to work, I had like about 45 minutes before I needed to leave the house. And I thought, well, let me just flip on the radio and see what's on. And for some reason, it was on 17 meters. And I thought, well, there's not going to be anything here at this time of morning. It was like maybe 8:45 or something. I spun the dial on my 10-tech Omni 6 Plus, which was like my radio for a really long time in the shack. And this was in the single sideband portion of the band, and I had at the time a little delta loop, a horizontal delta loop above my house, and it was kind of a stealthy one because I was in a neighborhood, and I was tuning around, didn't hear a thing except one guy calling CQ, and I didn't recognize the call sign. And I was, I didn't know all the call signs in really that well, and so I answered him. And it was like he was next door. He was a really strong signal. And I said, oh, you're like 5'9", you sound great. And he's like, thank you. I just wanted to I was wondering if I was getting out at all. And I said, and I asked him, I said, well, what's the weather like where you are? I was just like chatting because I didn't know like it was who it was. And I said, what's the weather like? He said, oh, it's like -20 outside. The wind's gusting to 60 miles an hour. And I said, where in the world are you? And he said, oh, this is the Peter One DXpedition. And I said, what? I said, well, here's your signal report. Thank you so much. And I was the first contact that day. He said, you're the first contact today on 17 meters. And I hopped off, and then like, whoosh, massive pileup, and I just, it blew my mind, and I would have never worked them otherwise. And it just kind of blew my mind. And so that's like one of my favorite ham radio stories, actually.
That's a fantastic story.
Yeah.
I think those moments are awesome.
Yeah, those moments are magical. What's the prefix for Peter the First Island?
3Y, I think.
Same as all of if you can look here, mousepad kind of theme, but all of or a quarter of Antarctica is a 3 Yankee.
Yeah, so it's the Norwegian Antarctic territories.
Yeah,
then.
So it's apparently listed as 3 Yankee Bravo and 3 Yankee Kilo for 3 Yankee Papa for Peter the First's island. And so it's interesting.
So then, if you had a Lima Alpha call sign, you should only have to change your prefix, then, shouldn't you, Kjetil?
Yep. Then you can just be. But we new ham operators that are Lima Bravo, we have to use the prefix of 3 Yankee /. But the others like LA7 Golf India Alpha, he is 3 Yankee 7 Golf India Alpha when he goes there. The same with Svalbard and
Jan Mayen.
Yep. Yeah, Jan Mayen, like Juliet Whiskey and Juliet X-Ray, they also just switch over.
Yeah.
So it's a bit different from like the old hams to the new hams.
Yeah, we're not as lucky when we go to those exotic places.
No.
We do get one less letter that we need people to copy correctly for a call sign stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're not an old ham, though, with a Lima Alpha call sign, then you have only 2 letters in your suffix.
True.
Yeah.
And if you're really old, you only have 1. I don't think
Yeah.
anyone are alive with only 1 yet.
Well, there's club calls.
Club calls, yeah.
But like these long calls, like you mentioned there, Thomas, they are like the amazing things. There's one specific I remember. Like I had maybe an hour's chat with a guy in the middle of the Pacific on one of the small islands, like insanely strong. And then suddenly he was gone. And you could hear people coming in there trying to break into the QSO to get like his call sign in the log, and he was really clear that he wanted to finish his QSO before going to the next one.
Yes, I used to work. There was a was it Sugar 9 Sugar? I can't remember, in Sao Tome, and I had a friend, Charles, actually worked at the VOA site and the Voice of America site in Sao Tome, and he would get on the air and he'd just work a pile up just forever. And then I would like hop on and like check in with him just to say hi, and then he would want to chat for a bit because he actually lived here in this area. In fact, he and his wife retired here to Western North Carolina, and we'd chat for a while, and you could just hear people. Like, always felt guilty, like, because all these people were waiting, and they're like, "Come on, finish your conversation." And I'm like, he wants to chat. He wants to do like a regular ham radio thing too, as opposed to always being in like de-expedition mode, where he is. So. He got to do some really cool things. Like he actually got to hook up his radio to some curtain array, some like huge curtain antennas that they had there on Sao Tome, and he said, "You just wouldn't believe the signal you can get out of that thing." That's like, I can imagine.
Yeah, that must be quite tiring. Like if you can't do a normal QSO without people trying to like run you as a fancy de-expedition.
That's right.
Yeah.
No,
he wanted to know what the weather was like and stuff. He wanted to check in about things that were going on here in Western North Carolina. So.
Yeah, complain about his bad foot, whatever.
But I guess that would happen to people that lives on exotic IOTA destinations as well, though, if they just start calling and people's ham alert just starts going off.
I think even with the special events and stuff like that, I mean, you guys do that. I made a mistake last week. I put on my social media that I'd be operating in Fort WIS, the battleship. And I got on, and there was another operator, and the other operator was getting frustrated. He said everybody was talking to on 20 meters was saying, "Are you Walt?" You know what I mean? And I, where's Walt? And I look, I'm not saying I'm popular or nothing. I made the mistake of putting it on social media, and everybody that knows me is like, "Hey, I'm going to go contact Walt on the ship so I can, log him, as the battleship." So I can imagine that people on de-expeditions, it would almost be better. Like what happened to Thomas is don't announce it. Don't say anything. Just get out there and start operating and kind of calm the pile up down. I think there was probably a lot of lessons learned from Bouvet last time too, where, from stuff like that.
And I mean, they were. I had them on stream a couple of months after they got back, and they were unlucky with a lot of factors on that the expedition. But I don't think they anticipated the amount of DQRM that they actually got.
No. Yeah. And if you see like the success rate of going to Bouvet compared to like you can compare it to like a Mars expedition, something like that. Like people go there and they don't get ashore, or they're barely able to go ashore. And sometimes you get something that's completely successful and everything is perfect and flawless. And it's a hard place to go to, from what I understood. So it's interesting. I think there's a lot of interesting history there as well. And a lot of hairdressing salons, if you go to Google Maps. Because since it's its own country, software developers use that like as a test country. So lots of things are registered on Bouvet.
And Stuart's got a good point here that they got a lot of stick from people who couldn't carry a radio to their car, and I think that's correct though. And
that's what I was getting at, though. I think they were over socialized. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like over.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense because there was so high expectations of them
Right.
going there, and I think every one of the expedition members knew the risks and the risk of not having a successful operation. But I don't think everyone out on the internet actually understood that.
No.
So, and if
No.
you see their video, then you can see like how harsh it was for them there. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't look nice.
If you listen to some of these debriefs from a DXpedition, and I used to go, and I still go to an annual DX conference, the W4DXCC, and I'm not a big time DX or a contester or anything like that, but a lot of my friends are, and I like to go to the event, and it's really fun to listen to the debrief after a DXpedition, because they're also talking to a lot of the stakeholders, besides the DXers, some of the clubs and things that donate money to the DXpedition, and they start to talk about, if you look at like a DXpedition, like Peter 1 will be a big one, like that is going to take a lot of infrastructure to like make that happen, and the amount of money that each person puts in, the amount of time that they put in before the DXpedition, well before the DXpedition, how long it takes just to get to the point where you're launching off to the DXpedition. Like they'll go to some place in Southern South America to to go to Peter 1 or whatever. And like just all that logistics, the practice, everything takes time. And they know that they could get there and something could happen where they can't even land and they can't operate. Or like as with Bouvet, only like a few select people could make it on shore because the weather was so bad. And it's and a lot of they talk about a lot of these DX conferences is that a lot of the DXpeditioners, they're not getting younger. It tends to be the older crowd, the ones that can really handle big pileups, that's got a lot of experience, and really I think where it's going to move to eventually are more remote stations that they drop there and then operate elsewhere. And they've done that with some of the DXpeditions in the past where they would have a remote operator, using a satellite link or Starlink or something like that to make it work. But it's a complicated, scary, it's a life risk, to go out and do these things. So
Absolutely. And it takes a lot of preparation. I went to a talk 2 years ago on the Norwegian ham meeting, where the Bouvet people talked about their preparation for the DXpedition, and it takes a lot of time, money, and effort, as you said, Thomas.
Yeah, I think they listed something like $25,000 or
Yes.
something per head, plus probably a bit more than that, and lost wages. It's not a weekend trip down there. So, but it's something that would be really interesting to try as well. Maybe not that extreme, but still, there are so many fun places you can go. It's the same with SOTA. Like many of those summits I've been to, I would never have gone to if I didn't have a SOTA reference on top. It's not as extreme as going to Bouvet, but still, it's a driving factor. It's something that like extra to the hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah, just parking garages I would have never gone to if it wasn't for me.
I thought you were going to say Walmart parking lots on the air for a moment, Walt, but
Walt.
I've been thinking about doing quick charge stations on the air after I did my can you operate HF while quick charging your vehicle video. But I understood that it takes kind of a lot of logistics to get a program up and running. So probably won't do that. But it was an interesting experience, though. Actually being able to have a QSO with all the noise from the chargers.
Yeah, I've got to say, we were really impressed, with the Ham Radio Workbenches on the Air event. Mark in 6MTS, who unfortunately can't be here today, but he kind of championed the whole thing. And I think a lot of us kind of thought, oh yeah, Mark's in the group. So the really cool thing was, he put it together pretty quickly. We all agreed to do it after he bugged us enough, and we loved the idea. But we're like, oh, this will be complicated to put together. But he got some volunteers together. They made a spotting page, and it was fabulous how quickly. I mean, and Mark really kind of organized the whole thing, and then we had volunteers that were helping with those pages. So that was a lot of fun.
And I think we're going to do it again sometime less than a year from now. Go ahead.
when I said I was going to be on the ship last weekend, people literally, if you go back and look at my social media, said, "Hey, wait a minute, Workbench. What's on your Workbench on the air is going on at the same time, man."
So we're giving out certificates for people who participated who worked 2 or more hosts and clean sweep and things like that. And I won't take any of the surprise away because we're going to announce that on our 200th show episode. Extravaganza, gala, and $1 million giveaway. We don't have $1 million to give away. And I always have to put that subtext in. And we do have some people who said, well, I need a certificate that says I really wanted to participate, but I couldn't because something got in the way. So we're going to have to work on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are, it's awesome to see let's come back to a hobby of 1,000 hobbies and all the activities we can do for just a second. It's awesome to see the number of activities that a guy can do with ham radio. We can choose to drive up to a summit, which is my speed because my shape is round. Round doesn't climb mountains. We can choose to do Walmart parking lots on the air. We can choose to do all of these things. And it's actually great when there's competing priorities for our time so that we can go enjoy our hobby.
Right. Amen.
Absolutely. And I thought about it. I went home from a PODA today, and it's been exactly 2 years since I did my first PODA here, when PODA was brand new in Norway. Then I struggled to make 10 QSOs. Now I regularly have 50, 60 people in a constant pileup. But it's not about the pileups. It's about getting outside, being able to operate portable, and getting away from your home environment to do it, and the challenge of adapting to those environments. And that's what driving me for portable operations, just the challenge, either if it's from your car or it's walk into some kind of protected area with three trees in the forest. It is the challenge of adapting to that environment, and I think that grows the hobby a lot.
I think that grows the hobby. We were just talking about this in a previous show where the allure of sitting around in your basement with a wall full of radios for a lot of people is not that appealing, and especially for younger hams who may not have a big antenna, or they may be in an apartment or somewhere they can't really operate conveniently from home. So plus you want to cross it over with stuff you like to do, so outdoorsy kind of activities is very popular. Maybe 2 generations ago, not so much, but it is now. So yeah, I think all those things come together. Awesome portable gear. People want to be on the outside. It may not be convenient to operate from home. So all those things really come together to really propel that part of the hobby.
Yeah, absolutely. I made, I guess I can say this now. I guess the cat's halfway out of the sack, but I made a couple of videos for the Norwegian League this fall. And one of them was how to operate portable, because they want to focus on that on the license classes, actually. So people don't think that they need a big antenna and a big tower at home. So they know that they can go out with ease and operate portable.
Well, I've talked to so many people who say, well, I would go out hiking, or I'd go out, walking or whatever anyway, but it gives me a little extra, like a purpose, so not that you need a purpose, but it kind of helps, if it's like, I never would have gone up to that hill, but since that's a point, 2-pointer or whatever, I'm going to go do that. And so it kind of gives you you can set your own goals and kind of weave those activities together, which is really great. So Walt, I know like you do a lot of like portable operating sort of stuff. I've seen your videos where, it's kind of like you don't need a reason to be out there, but you might as well, cross it over.
So I like right across the street from me is salt water, and like 100 meters away. And honestly, I'm on the 3rd floor of an old building that was built in the 1800s, and I got limited what I could do here. And I could get on here with 20 watts and struggle, and then just grab the thing, throw any wire in the sky, and go 100 meters road here, and then boom! I'm like talking. I'm talking to VKs and ZLs. You know what I mean? So that's why I mean, for me, it's, I don't want to say necessity, but it's just it's like it's like an alcoholic owning a liquor store. You know what I mean? I got a liquor store.
Well, there's another thing too, which is like this hobby attracts gear nerds. You know, who amongst us is not a gear nerd, right? So if you then take the hobby and go, okay, now we're going to take the hobby and go outdoors. Now you can cross over radio gear nerd with hiking and camping gear. Like I was listening to some of your comments earlier on some of your shopping show ideas. Like half the ideas are like, you need a proper coffee press, or, you need a whatever. So in fact, Thomas was doing a video and he had a picture of his portable set up there with his coffee press and the radio and this stuff. And so I said, Thomas, that's a really fine rig you're using there. By the way, the radio looks pretty good too.
George texted me recently, and he's like, the rig here is what'd you say, an AeroPress?
Rig here's an espresso machine. I see you got the portable model.
But I mean, the AeroPress is one of the greatest inventions ever.
Isn't it brilliant?
Oh, it's so nice.
So that guy,
and guys, you're absolutely right. With being a gear nerd, during COVID, I bought a Comandante manual coffee grinder, ridiculously expensive and over-engineered, but I had to have it.
Okay, there's equipment I don't own. AeroPress, what is that?
It's a coffee brewer. It's somewhere in between an espresso maker and a French press. It looks like a big syringe.
Looks like a coffee syringe.
Yeah, I think I have it.
And Bob, I'll guarantee you that if you ask George or Thomas, they will have a bag to carry that in for you.
Of course you need a bag.
and you guys sound like the coffee group at work. Like we have a specialist corner with all the weird gear that you're not allowed to touch unless you're like in the correct religion or whatever. For me, like the best coffee, it's scorched over a campfire out in the forest with lots of coffee pieces in it and everything. Absolutely not snobby. Coffee is coffee.
That is why you have brewing bag coffee, Kjetil.
Yeah.
Thomas, I got to ask you this, Thomas, because you're like me. I've seen from your blog and some stuff you do. I like little small portable shortwave radios. Like I think I have every little radio Texon ever made. Are you that much, or do you have that type of collection going on?
Oh gosh, yeah. That's a collection I could downsize at some point too, because I've just got so many of them. And I've always carried in my EDC bag, the bag I carry around with me, which is basically like just a backpack. It's this backpack right here. Just moved my stuff into this one. This is made by a company called Track out of Scotland.
And here we go. Who's it made by? It's made from the finest Corinthian leather. Yeah, do we have enough time for this?
It's wax canvas.
Sorry, Thomas, please go ahead.
But I always carry I'll carry a little portable with me. Actually, the one I have in the bag right now is a kind of a vintage one. It's the Sony ICF SW100. Which was like forever when I was a kid. I couldn't afford it, but it's just the cutest, most awesome 80s tech ever designed into a little radio. And I love that thing. So I can't leave home without a radio.
I'm sick with it. I was in the line the other day at a TJ Maxx. You guys in the States, so they are the little discount stores, whatever. And I look over, and this thing was just sitting there for $5.99. I'm like, I get it. 36. I mean, hey, it needed a home. It really did.
I hardly ever feel as normal as when I hang out with people like you.
You got to find your tribe.
That is true.
Normal is overrated.
Speaking about shortwave radios, though, I have through years of trying to convince my daughter to get interested in something, I've kind of at least got her halfway convinced that we're gonna do some kit building together. And I'm just gonna find the kit here, and we're gonna build a shortwave loop antenna.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah.
I'm just gonna find the kit here. So we're gonna do that over Christmas break, figured. If I can find the kit, hopefully it's not discontinued.
Is it for receiving or transmitting?
For receiving.
If you're going to build it over Christmas and you haven't ordered it yet, then that is probably a problem.
There is a store. There is a store called Kristek, which is the largest Norwegian ham radio store, and they ship so you get it the next day. So that is no problem, Bob.
All right.
I found the page here. So
my Raspberry Pis, they've been with the Posten, which is the Norwegian USPS, for 2 weeks now.
Oh my goodness. Oh, cool.
So it's just a small, simple kit here. It's not complicated at all. But it's good enough for a 15-year-old to build and get some experience in kit building and electronics.
Nice.
Yeah, your daughter's about the same. My daughters are 16, and I had them, pretty early on. They knew how. I used to run a nonprofit called Earstar World, and we had a little flashlight kit that was sort of designed on the same circuit as a jewel thief. So it would take the residual voltage in a AA cell and it would pump it up to whatever, the LED needed. And these things had like incredible lifespan on them. But the kit was just beautiful. And it was designed by my buddy NM0S, who's behind a lot of the 4-state QRP kits and everything like that. And the girls were really good at soldering those pretty quickly because I started using them as labor when we would go places. I'm like, here's a soldering iron, and so soldering. They actually. In fact, I was working yesterday. I finally got my AGC kit or the AGC mod for my QCX Mini.
Let's see. I'm gonna make you bigger here, Thomas. So you can show
so
it
I had
off.
my QCX Mini. This is the 20-meter one that I have. I bought this kind of early on.
Kit.
And this one came pre-assembled. This is the one that I reviewed for Radcom, and so I wanted a pre-assembled one for my review. And then it didn't have the AGC in it, so I put the AGC mod in. You're talking about a chip that's just teeny tiny. And I had a bit of a migraine yesterday, but I thought, it'll be nice and relaxing to solder and everything. So I got out all the stuff and I was working on it. It was just like almost all I could do to get my glasses to work, to get the magnifying glass to work, to just get to these little tiny soldering points because I didn't want to change out the tip of my soldering iron, which I should have just done. And my daughter came over and she's looking at it. She's like, Dad, you want me to do that for you? So the next episode of the Ham Radio Workbench, what's on my workbench? I'll be like, well, I was starting to work on something, but then my daughter did it for me. So there you go. That's what's on my workbench.
That is quality parenting.
If Mark was here, he would say, just Thomas, end the suffering, get a Met-Cal.
Yes, I know I do. Yeah, that's right.
Guys,
there you go.
I got to own them all. It was
Yeah,
another one.
I have the kits.
Yeah. This is my 30-meter one I got for $50 at Hamvention. Is one of the
cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
It has the AGC in it already. So
That's awesome. Mine's 20-meter one. That's cool.
you have a 20 and a 30.
So, but Walt, how's your CW skills coming along?
They're horrible, but I'm working on it. That's really that is one of my New Year's resolutions, is to like really quit going halfway and stopping or whatever, and is just hammer down and get better. I'm working on it.
Well, one of the best ways to learn CW, there are two things about learning CW I'm going to share with you, and I'll share a little quick fun story. The first thing is work on it every day. Pick a time, right. 5 minutes, 15 minutes. Just work on it every day without failing. Because the minute you stop for one day and say, I'll get at it in a couple of days, you lose off. So don't stop. Just stay on the bike. Okay. And then the other thing to do is to get on a Jason's Ham Radio 2.0 live stream like I did last New Year's Eve and say something stupid like, I'm going to do so many 100 a month every month. Well, damn, now I'm committed publicly.
Yeah.
Now, there's nothing wrong with that. And I set that goal. And I exceeded my annual goal of making 2,400 activating contacts in POTA or SOTA, and I'd exceeded it by the beginning of November. What I found was by August of this year, it was starting to be fun. Right. And so set a goal, track your progress, practice every day, and don't be afraid to make yourself publicly accountable. That's the key to success. Good luck.
Great. Yeah. Okay.
Funny story.
Good advice.
Now, the funny story is when
on film contact here by the end of January. How about that then?
All right. All right. And I'll work you on that.
I'll join you as well. But I'm gonna give myself a little bit of a bigger time frame. Within the summer next year, I'm gonna start activating on CW.
Good for
Yeah.
you.
I'm gonna think about it, but I will make a commitment next week to something having to do with CW. That's a very good idea. I'll tell
Nice.
the world, or at least the 50 people watching, and promise to stay at it every day. That's
Yeah. I had ambitions 2 years ago about learning CW, and then I kind of started making YouTube videos, and that took over my life for a little while.
Good point.
Vince had a story.
The quick story was, my spirit animal is on the call today, and that's Thomas. And Thomas said to me, as I went out to do one of my very first potathons, and that was 2 Septembers ago now, he said, Vince, if you think you're ready, just get on the air at a speed where you are comfortable. Somebody will respond to you. And
Yeah,
then
Yeah, maybe
and somebody
maybe
did.
I have to get this one digitized finally. You know.
Oh, there you go.
Let's see. I'm begging you there, Tobias. Just show it off once more.
Is that quarter
Is it
inch? Is
focusing?
that quarter inch tape, or is that a 45 a small record?
That's 45-inch records, yeah.
45 RPM records.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
nice.
the small
Machine
ones,
code.
yeah.
45 RPM records.
If you don't have a turntable, Tobias, I do.
I have one, but I have to, properly digitize it, and maybe I can play you a snippet then, because it's really old school. Like, you get the really old school radio voice that they did in Germany at the beginning of radio.
So
Hey, guys,
yeah,
I hate to do this. I have got to run out and run. I
Yep.
got to go. George, Vince, Thomas, man, thank you so much. So great to actually meet you guys here in person.
And likewise.
And I really
The feeling
appreciate
is
it. I hope to
mutual.
see more of you. And I'd like this was honestly, I'm not just saying this. This is the best European ham radio show I've ever experienced. You guys got to come back to this.
Best one for us too. But
Yeah.
thank you so much, Walt. It's a pleasure. Seriously, thanks for all the videos too.
Yeah. Rub it in, Walt. Rub it in.
It's best because it's full of Americans.
Cool. Hey, everybody, I have to run. I'm so sorry, but 73, everybody.
73.
I'm going to join Walt. I have a son that needs to be put to bed before he's got school tomorrow. He's 12, so it's a bit late for him. Really nice meeting you all. I hope you'll join us again another time. And I'll say 7-3.
7-3.
Thanks, Bob.
Till next
7-3,
time.
Bob.
Yeah, I also have to sign off quite soon. It's getting close to 11 here over in Europe. So up to work at 7 in the morning. So it's a bit.
That is the nice thing about being a sound engineer, though, because you usually have Mondays off.
Yeah, but I'm home at 3. In the evenings.
I'm usually all home around 3 as well, but it's not the same 3 o'clock as your 3 o'clock.
But I think it's been great having you on here and having more, just an entire show over. That's been really cool.
Yeah, it's been really nice having you guys on. So we got to do this at some other point, actually. And as I said, you're my favorite 3-hour plus podcast, ham radio podcast, and there are only 2 of them though, but you're my favorite.
Well, we had a 50% chance of taking that coveted top spot.
Thank you so much for having us on. It's a real pleasure to meet you all, and
Yes.
we would love to come back. We'd love to have you come on, visit our show too, do a little promotion
awesome.
of your channel, and continue there. There's all kinds of stuff we could talk about, I'm sure. Thank you so much.
And just one more thing before we end this, George. We haven't mentioned Pec Tennis yet.
That's right. That's a whole other show by itself.
It is. Just a quick question though. How much is shipping to Europe?
It depends on what it is. We ship first class mail to Europe, and it seems to vary, of course, by country and how big the package is. But we're seeing somewhere around, on the average, I'd say about $20.
That is not bad.
Yeah.
You'll probably see an order from me soon then.
Awesome. Well, we hope to have inventory soon. We have some stuff now and more stuff coming. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, since people have started leaving, I guess we're on overtime
See,
already.
Morton, we would call this the intro segment of this show, but
Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more
Yeah.
Ham Radio Workbench, the European ham radio
we
show.
are actually on the, and in your terms, we're on the point of me driving to work, and then it's the other third of the show going back from work, and then going to work the next day. So
oh, very good.
I'd like more shows. I only use 3 days on a show.
See, we get to work on that. Thank you so much for having us on. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you
so
and
much.
and everyone, we're going to be back next week we're going to talk about Laura next week, so that's going to be a whole lot of fun, seeing how that works, and it's probably going to make me buy some new gear as well. So thank you guys for being on, and we'll see you guys, the viewers, next week. 7-3 all.
73.
7 threes.
Bye, guys.